just thought it was interesting. And it went along with getting me to graduation. So I took on these classes. And in these classes, we analyzed like language structure. We analyzed sentences. We looked at words, we broke them down into like syllables. We looked at like syntax and like grammar, and we looked at morphology and neurolinguistics, which is really complicated, interesting. And so today I want to give you like a real quick linguistics theory lesson, okay? So if we look at the dictionary definition of language, it will tell you that it is a method of human communication, either spoken or written. Okay, all right, let's put a pin in that, spoken or written. Got it? All right, so if we go through linguistics theory, I will tell you about this really old guy who came up with this theory of language acquisition, right? So his name was Noam Chomsky, and he came up with universal grammar and language acquisition theory, which basically says that humans have the innate ability to basically learn language. You don't have to go to class to learn how to speak. Like when you were a kid, you didn't sit down and like they taught you say gaga. Like that's not what they did. Like as a human, that's what makes you human, your ability to learn these languages, and it happens in phases. So when you're in your mother's womb, you hear language, and you recognize voices. Then you're born, and from 0 to like 12 months old, you like start to put together these sounds because you realize, hey, my mouth does things. And you go, and you're like, whoa, that is something happened there. And then you realize, like, if I put these sounds together, I go, oh, wait a minute. And then you realize, like, okay, if I go ma, and then I go ma, I get a response. Okay, we're getting something here. And so because people like, well, not people, these kids, they realize that their bodies are like giving out puffs of air and making vibrations. And these vibrations are causing things to happen. They realize, whoa, all right, we getting somewhere. I can get what I want by making this noise. Okay, bet. Well, this, I like this one, I'm sorry. But, okay, come on, give me the thing. Do the thing. Do the thing. There we go. Okay, so if our idea is that we learn these languages throughout like these different phases, then why is it that we have to take these classes once we get to a certain point? Like why is it that Spanish in high school was so hard? It's because there's this idea of a critical period, which means that once you get to like 5 up until the beginning of puberty, it becomes like significantly harder for you to learn this language, not because you can't do it, but because like you just, it's not like as obvious anymore. Your brain just doesn't have the flexibility anymore. So let's go back to this definition. The method of human communication is either spoken or written, right? Spoken or written. But that doesn't really sit well with me because that ain't how I talk. So I'm standing here and I'm talking to you, and if I was to change the way that I was speaking and I stood just like this and I didn't really do anything, like that would change the message that was perceived. But if I go like this and I move around, like that's giving you a different idea, right? And it makes me wonder and think about when I was a kid and like I'm walking in the store with my dad and he sees a guy like in the corner and he goes like this. And I'm like, what you doing? He goes like this, and that person understood what he meant, right? And I'm like walking down the street or in the high school hallway and I see one of my friends and I'm like, what's up? But I don't have to say what's up, I just go like this and they understand what that means. Or like I see one of my friends coming up the street, one of my girls, and they look good. I'm like, I ain't gotta say nothing, and they know exactly what I mean. And so like, I just don't understand how we can just define language as something that is spoken and written, because it's not like I'm walking around with a sign talking about, you look good. I don't do that. And so this brings me to this idea that language is not something that is simply spoken and written, but rather it is a cultural capital. It's a way that we define the world around us. And in fact, because it's based off of culture, there are ways of communication that are stigmatized, and there are ways that are valued. And because of that, we come up with this idea of like code switching, which, quite frankly, I do quite often. Now, at the beginning, I told you that language did not exist, but not one time did I tell you that language didn't have power. So, language has a lot. Language has a lot of power. Because, I'm out of breath, y'all, it's hot. Language has a lot of power because it fuels the way that we see the world. It fuels the way that you navigate certain spaces. It fuels the way that you interact with other people. And it fuels the way that you see yourself and that you see who you are. So this next slide, which will come eventually, it'll be a picture. Oh, there we go. It'll be a picture of my great-grandfather and my mother and me. And as you can see, they are significantly darker than I am, right? Because the genetics decided to have some fun and throw some like light brightness in my blood. So because of this, like all my life, I've been walking around like, I'm black, I'm beautiful, and that's great. Like, I understand that I'm black and I'm beautiful, but there have been so many times when I've had to say, no, I'm black, I swear. I'm black, I swear. And it's because I don't fit into the cookie cutter version of what blackness is. And because of that, because this word is defined in the dictionary a different way than how I define myself, I don't believe that we can sit here and say that these words, which are just symbols and sounds and vibrations that are made through the movement of my tongue and the movement of the vocal cords within me, have meaning besides the meaning that we put on them using culture and the society around us. And so, when it changes, wow, so much longer. Ladies and gentlemen, I rest my case, and I hope that at this point you can understand that language really doesn't exist. But that doesn't mean it doesn't have power. It doesn't mean that it doesn't serve a purpose in your life, and it doesn't mean that it doesn't affect the way in which you see the world and you see the things that are around you. And so I challenge you to go out into the world and think about the way that you're using language to affect you. Now, I went through all of this and I told you that language don't exist, which was basically my entire undergrad. So, did I throw a whole lot of money down the drain? It's very possible. But at the same time, I would argue that money does not exist. A sentence in each language? My name is Alexis. My name is Alexis, and I am a student at the University of Chicago. Okay. Me llamo Alexis y soy estudiante aquí en la Universidad de Chicago. Y اسمي Alexis y أنا طالبة في جامعة Chicago. Which is Spanish, Arabic, and English. There you go.
Although language isn't real, how does it affect us every day here? How do you think it affects us?
How does language affect us every day here at Harris? That's another fetch cushion. Okay, well, a prime example of how language affects us here at Harris would be the idea that we've had this conversation, that everybody perceives things the exact same way. So like, if I see a sigma on a paper or a summation on a paper, if I've never encountered that word before, that means something completely different from somebody else who's like had a math background. Or like, if I read a word and in my culture it means something different and it doesn't directly translate into this culture, like I will perceive that word differently. And that's the reason why there's so many boundaries between like languages. And it's also the reason why a lot of educational policy people are looking into using like Ebonics or dual language in classrooms, because if a standardized test is telling me that breakfast is eggs Benedict, but in my household we eat Cheerios and like a bag of hot Cheetos, like I don't know how that doesn't translate to me, and because that language is the same, like I don't perceive that word the same way. So it affects how like education works. Okay, David. Yes, David.
Hear me out. This is going to take a while.
Yes, David. Yes, David.
All right. My question is as follows. Is math a language? And if so, are you prepared to say that physics is not real, given that math is a language of physics?
All right. I like the question. Keep doing this because he's from Saginaw and they different. And I'm from Detroit. We don't mess with them. But anyways. So, all right. In the context of language, in terms of linguistics, we do not count math, nor coding languages, nor like anything scientific as a language, because it was not created for the form of communication. So like, the fact that we can't learn R or Stata has nothing to do with your human ability. It's simply because that language was not meant to engage like between humans, and so because of that, it's not like you're no less incompetent or able to learn a language just because you can't learn something that's not meant for human use, right? So whole bunch of different